fuck up. It's time to talk business. Jared Taylor, Matt Best, and Evan Hafer proudly present Blackhearted. Sponsored by BlackRifle Coffee Company and Arson Wave.
Well, hello.
Oh, hello.
Oh, I love the sound of that voice.
Oh, I'm back or
Yeah.
something. If I was gone, I don't know.
This is the dawn of new equipment today.
I found a little task and purpose, so I showed up.
I did.
You know,
We have new gear. This is our first time running. What? How many of us are there? 5?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's 5 people at once.
I make 5.
This is our first 5
dudes.
way.
I make 5.
Zach makes 5. I make 4.
No, you've got the black mic, so you make 5.
Yeah.
Oh.
He does. You're not very colorful. We have that over there is Zach, the CEO of Task and Purpose,
Nice to be here.
as well as Pat, who is one of the employees. Well, I don't know your title, Pat. I just know you're a
What's your
good
title,
friend.
Pat?
My
What's the
official
Pat title?
is he manager, comma, branded content and partnerships.
Whoa.
But my
shit.
unofficial title is homeboy. Like, I hang out. I'm pretty dope. I'm very lit. When people come in to Task and Purpose, they describe me as crispy.
Yeah.
He brings
I'm
a
actually
lot
at
of
Black-
energy to the office. A lot of energy.
I'm the chief of happiness at BlackRifle.
Yeah.
No,
I
I
don't
literally am.
even
That's my
have a
official title.
Well, my title is people collector.
Actually,
Yes.
I was wondering what your title was. I didn't know how to describe you to people.
People collector.
People collector.
People collector.
Yeah.
I like that.
He
That's nice.
goes out there and grabs them, brings them in, and sometimes they poop on the floor. Sometimes they do
Sometimes
joint
they do
ventures.
nice. They do good things.
Yeah.
Sometimes they do leave poop on the walls.
But you guys haven't pooped on the wall, so we're thankful.
No,
Yeah,
not yet.
It's
No.
early. It's still early.
But when you have 100 and only 2 of them poop on the walls, I mean that's 98.
That's a great
really good.
ratio.
Yeah.
That's a great ratio.
That's really
Yeah.
good.
It's a
That's like
2% error rate.
Yeah, I would say.
because like McDonald's had burned like 2 million people with their coffee back in the day,
Yeah.
and like only 700 out of 2 million were burned.
Okay.
So you're
That's
like
not- that's
McDonald's.
not a bad ratio.
Yeah,
That's pretty
But
good.
That's
I
a
mean,
huge compliment.
When someone poops on the walls, they really poop on the walls, though. Like when my dealings go bad, they go bad.
Yeah. And that's not fun for anybody to have to
I like
clean
how
up.
that's your dealings.
We did-
That's the bar of your dealings.
We had to move out of our last office because of it. But different
Instead
story.
of we opted out of instead of cleaning it.
yeah,
we
we're just like
we
fuck
just
it.
moved.
Let's just get
It was,
another
it was a
building.
shitty situation. Pat.
It was a shrimpuation.
Sorry for that joke. Well, we're glad to have you here, Zach and Pat.
Yeah,
you
thanks
guys
for
got
having
some
us.
really
Thanks
cool
for having
stuff
us.
going on.
Appreciate it. Yeah, this is quite an operation you guys are running. It's pretty awesome.
It is. It is an operation. I don't know if it's quite an operation.
It's quite an operation.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We got it
I
quite.
like
I like that.
Yeah.
What would that be called? A pronoun, right?
From a sophisticated journalist too. So I mean that's a compliment.
A New York journalist.
Ooh.
Sophisticated New York
That
journalist,
is
right?
that is as
That's
sophisticated as it gets.
Yeah, it really
Like,
is. The Northeast.
We
If-
should
yeah.
specify it's Manhattan. not-
If you
Oh,
have a
not Brooklyn.
publication,
Okay.
you have to be in Manhattan.
Yeah.
That's where Vogue is, right?
Vogue is there. My wife used to work at Vogue. Yeah,
See?
Vogue is there.
Holy
You
shit.
come from
Yeah.
a bloodline of
Oh yeah.
journalistic
Yeah.
stuff.
What we do would our practices here be acceptable? Like
Yeah,
how-
absolutely.
Okay.
This is very Vogue-ish here.
Okay.
You guys
Oh,
are
yeah.
a lot of style.
a lot of beards.
I got 2
Lot of
holes
beards,
in
lot
my
of guns.
flannel.
Yeah.
I got a flannel with a hole in my left sleeve, and then one with the other sleeve has a patch on it.
But that's
And
fashion.
I cut out.
Did
some,
you put that patch on yourself?
Yeah, it's so shitty.
It looks
I did
cool though.
No,
I
it does
did it
look cool.
myself.
It does look kind of cool.
You're literally molding into like the Folger guy back in the 50s, but the contemporary version that serves better coffee.
I do this on purpose. I've had this shirt for like fucking 4 years. It has holes all over in it, but I refuse to throw it out just to piss my wife off. 'Cause she's like, "When are you going to throw that away? When are you going to throw that away?" She's like, "That's our dog."
Exactly.
Yeah. Point counterpoint, bitch. Never. I love you, Kate. Please do not.
Please don't listen to the show.
Yeah.
Well, Zach, how about you kick us off? Because you
Yeah,
got a
man.
very interesting past. And we can start with Fallujah.
Yeah, so I was in the Marine Corps, was with 3rd Battalion, 1st Marines, Thundering 3rd. We fought in the Second Battle of Fallujah. Got out of the Marine Corps in about 2007, 2008, and did some film work back in Iraq again. And then I guess in about 2011, 2012, I started a job site for vets called Higher Purpose. And we have grown remarkably. We work with about 120 Fortune 1000 companies, but we needed to do some content marketing to drive people to the site. And so we launched a blog called Task and Purpose, and that started to take on a life of its own. And so we spun it out as a separate site. It's still affiliated with Higher Purpose. It's subsidized by Higher Purpose. The job board is sort of like the classifieds of the old newspaper business, but it now stands on its own.
Wow.
That's freaking awesome.
Thank you.
What would you say? What do you guys do at Task and Purpose for the people listening that might not be aware of the site?
Yeah, so we're primarily veterans. We are a lot of folks that have served overseas, and I think that there's a space for veterans in today's news cycle. You know, we're a group, post 9/11 veterans, who have earned our skepticism, right? We've earned the right to be irreverent and to look at things with a critical eye. And we try and take that eye to the news of the day, primarily military, but our hope is that we can start reaching a broader audience. And I think the way we look at it is, you look at a company like Vice. Vice started out as a skateboarding and punk culture magazine that was written by punks and skateboarders for skateboarders and punks by skateboarders and punks. And they've branched out and they've taken that voice to a bigger audience. And similarly, we want to take the voice of today's veteran, skeptical, irreverent, and bring it to a bigger audience than just the core post 9/11 vet group.
That's awesome.
So when you first started on Higher Purpose, what was the objective? I guess kind of how did you go from news, specifically, working in Iraq, and then come back and say, you know what, this is kind of, I want to push into this. Like, what was that transition, man?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think one of the pieces of advice that I wish I'd gotten is if you want to start a business, start a business. It doesn't have to be in the vet space. But I felt in some ways like if I was going to start a business, I needed permission, right? Like I didn't have any experience, so it had to be related to my military experience. My last job in the Marines, I helped build and run the recruiting, screening, assessment, and selection pipeline for MARSOC.
Okay.
So I felt like I had a background in recruiting and assessment, and I could apply that to the civilian job market and maybe mimic the way that we recruited Marines for MARSOC and apply it to the civilian job market. Turns out you can't do that.
We've talked about that. We talked about having a selection for the interns that was very physical.
Yeah.
How'd that work out?
We haven't done it yet.
I think we just want to make that video in general. We want to do like a mini SFAS or MARSOC screening for interns. And then at the end, we hand them a rose. The internet. We call it the internet.
You got the job.
Oh, that's
It's kind of like The Bachelor.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We call it the intern.
But both a lot more sweet blood.
No, we hand them a 30 millimeter shell. That's what we hand them.
Yeah.
Whoever gets the job gets that.
Carl just opened the door and let himself in our podcast. That's pretty funny, actually. I think that's a great idea. The funny thing, so I not even funny. I want to go back to like Higher Purpose, and were you building the site? Did you actually do the programming?
I did everything wrong.
Seriously?
I did everything wrong. I hired consultants to build the first version of the site. That was not the right move to do, but I didn't have access to tech talent at the time, so I sort of had to do that. I also, I thought I had all the answers. So we spent about a year building a product in a vacuum that was not successful when we launched. So we had to go back into product development, start really listening to the marketplace, and we relaunched Higher Purpose about 8 months later. And that was much more successful. But I think there's a lot of mistakes early on.
Yeah.
Well, here's one thing. I mean, I know we're talking about Higher Purpose right now, but on Task and Purpose, you guys are by no means high and right. Like you guys.
What are you talking about? We're straight down the middle.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying is like a lot of the veteran-owned blogs or something like that. You see a mirrored image. Like you keep getting the same side of things, whereas I read a lot of your guys' stuff and it's always very very informative, very
You're
neutral.
not just out there appeasing an opinion. You're saying, I know this person likes green vehicles, so let's just throw green vehicles down. You're like, hey, let's think and critically analyze these, like what's going on in the world, which is pretty cool.
And how did you foster that culture in your writers?
Yeah, that's a good question. Part of it's just it's what we set out to do, right? I mean, there's this problem today online, especially on Facebook, where all of us live in these echo chambers, right? And you see it. And you've got folks I got Marine buddies who are very conservative who are making arguments against the left that they're just making straw man arguments about some subject, right? And then you got my friends on my left who I grew up with or who are from the Northeast who are making straw man arguments because they're assuming some argument that the right's making. And so, it's sort of natural for us because we straddle these two worlds to let's just be an honest ref, right? Let's just call it as it is and tell straight stories. And we get a lot of shit for that. There's definitely a lot of trolls.
Well, if I could speak on that, I think like there's a huge marketplace for what you guys are doing. And what I found being on social media so much is the people with the most intense opinions that are usually not well educated are the ones that are most vocal about those subjects, where the people that are sitting back enjoying content and things like that, they just watch it, that was funny, and they walk away, or that was engaging. And then it's the people that just have these knee-jerk reactions to whatever story you're doing that are just going to go in there, comment, put you on blast, as the kids say. So I think that
like right now, everybody sees how many refugee experts there are this week.
Exactly.
Exactly.
I didn't know there were so many.
Well, actually, when I announced that I was leaving Ranger Up and going to Task and Purpose, I think you might have seen the comments, Zach, but people were like saying things like, "Oh, I hope you can fix those libtards, like fan them out and do this and that." And I'm like, wow, I don't know why this reputation exists, and it was because of that. Like we have to deal with people who just don't like the unbiased approach, and we tell them like it's not our job to give you an opinion; it's your job to form your own with the information. So,
well, this goes back to Tank Machine the other day, like. He goes, have you ever looked up liberal in the dictionary? What the definition of liberal is? Somebody that's open to new ideas.
That came from Tank Machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know, right? And he was like, dude, I'd never looked it up, and I looked it up.
Well, but I think like that's just a blanket statement. Just like is considering myself like a libertarian and conservative. In the word conservative, there's so many assumptions and generalities that people jump to that define you, and you're like, no, they don't. And I think that's the same course in like the liberal world or the democratic world. Like,
I don't know how anybody could call Task and Purpose libs. Like, I mean, they are very down the middle. It's where everything I've ever read from you guys sees both sides.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it is also in online news today, there is a movement both on the left and the right to just sell anger, right? Like you go to Drudge Report, and you read those headlines, and you're getting fucking angry.
Yeah.
You go to Huffington Post, and you're just getting spun up. You're like, I can't believe fucking Trump did that. We're trying not to sell anger, right? Like we're trying to sell an informed opinion, and that's really hard to do because people want it to tap into emotion.
Yeah. People only share shit that has an emotional component to. That's what I found. So it's like the more risky or the more political you make things, the more shareable it is, because then people have an opinion, so they want their friends to know that you suck. Matt Best is a douchebag, or you're like, this guy like guns and tits. I like guns and tits. So it's hard to sell just general content.
Yeah.
And I try to talk to people about politics, like, I don't know, every day for the most part. And my consumption just in the political climate is basically there's control and then there's less control. There's Democrat, there's Republican, sure. But ultimately, the success of what you do is not based on how many bills you pass. It's how many you repeal and how many liberties you give back to the American public, how much responsibility you actually push back into the individual that forms my opinion on that party. So I don't give a fuck about the Democrat or a Republican or a liberal or conservative as defined in the American political spectrum. The only thing I care about is give me back my fucking rights, because that's the only thing I give a shit about. And when people talk about the, Trump's Refugee Act or whatever it is, I'm like, did it affect an American in a negative way? Did it take away a right? Did it take away something that is going to encroach on your individual liberty as an American to live every day in this country? No. Okay, I don't give a fuck about it. I really don't. When I say that, I'm not trying to be an asshole. I'm just like, dude, we have so many fish to fry. Being an objective media source, being able to just say, okay, these are the facts. Okay, this is what we know about this. You guys can form your own opinion. However, that's too complex, because what people want is they want to be spoon-fed their opinion by a subject matter expert that says, this is the way you should feel about this.
So they can regurgitate the
So they can go,
right.
and go to their buddy and go, yeah, this is the way I should feel about this. Fucking, so-and-so said, I should be super mad about these refugees. So you know what? Me and my Prius driving friends are going to be like super pissed off about it. And then the guys on the other side, the conservatives, are going to go, you know what? Fucking Trump's right on, man. It's like, well, there's probably a good answer right there in the middle.
Yeah.
It's like, maybe we didn't have to just throw mud right in the fucking face of people. Maybe there could have been a better way. I don't know. I'm just like shooting from the hip.
The refugee thing is such a great example. I look at my Facebook feed and, you see a lot of my conservative friends are saying this is not a ban against Muslims. This is a ban against 7 countries, right?
Yeah.
And not having people come from these 7 countries. My friends on the left are not even talking about this being a Muslim ban. They're talking about the fact that there's 60,000 veterans from a war in Syria who are widows and orphans who we can help, right?
Yeah.
Like, most of our families came over because they were fleeing something. These are
Right.
people who will one day be great Americans. And I think that gets totally lost because both sides are making a straw man argument about this.
Mm-hmm.
And neither side's really listening to each other, hearing that. And, I think if we as veterans can't have those conversations together, this country's fucked, right? If we can't do it because, like, I'm from New York, you're from the Pacific Northwest, you're from Texas.
California, actually.
Oh, man.
Yeah,
you
we're
just-
in four corners here.
Yeah.
We're all four
Yeah.
corners. Yeah. But, if we can't have these conversations based on shared experiences, who can?
Right. Well, and who better to speak of this than the guys that have actually raised a hand, gone overseas, seen what's happening overseas, been an instrument of foreign policy, like a direct and sometimes violent instrument of foreign policy. That does give you a platform and a certain amount of respect that you can speak.
Yeah.
You should be able to open your mouth. Now, if I'm not saying that opinion's any more valid than the person that's just like mouth breathing, sitting on their fucking couch, eating Cheetos, but ultimately it is.
Well, I do. I take that for someone like me. Like, there's a reason I wouldn't and will not post anything about the refugee thing because I don't understand the political climate. I have not done my due diligence, research to even understand, to even make an argument on either side. So because I'm busy with trying to be an entrepreneur and these other things, that like I'm not going to post. And you have a lot of people out there that read one little fucking opinionated blog and then develop their opinion off that completely fucked thing. And you're like, man, like, you would think you'd want to be a little intelligible, like go out there, do research on both sides, and then develop like a moderate fucking response. But no one does that,
No.
Yeah,
And that's
you want
too
to see
rational.
me get me fired up? Like, you start talking about some executive order over small business tax law, then I'm going to get pissed.
Well, there you go.
Because that affects my life.
Right. And it's not the stance of like necessarily like hands off in political stuff, but everybody has their needs and wants in the American dream, and the things that I directly affect my life are the things that I get emotional and passionate about and do my research so I can have an argument and have a voice for what I believe in.
It's one of the things I love about this podcast. I think I told you guys this, but when I first started listening, I was like, wow, these guys are filled with so much fucking hate. Like, what am I listening to? Like, I told my wife about it. But I kept listening because you guys are veterans and we need to support the veteran community.
Thanks, man.
And, but there's, JT, you talk about this all the time, that you have to have an informed opinion. Like, do your fucking homework. If you're going to start a business, do your homework. If you're going to have an opinion about global warming, do your fucking homework and reach a conclusion. I think that's so important,
Absolutely. And not enough people do it these days. It's like, it's because the attention span of the world these days with, social media and phones, smartphones, like it's so dubbed down. And I guarantee everybody in this room does it. I get bored after 4 seconds of a video. There's a reason why analytics on any social media and say 3-second views is because grabbing an attention of someone's their attention more than 3 seconds is insanely challenging, and then people just base an opinion off that 3 to 8 seconds, which is crazy to me.
I have one of my favorite comedians, like stand-up comedians, is Eddie Izzard. You know him?
I know who he is. Yeah.
And he talks and because a lot of his stand-up comedy is super educational. It's like historical and like you're like, oh wow, that makes sense. But he says it's the difference between active and passive research, where it's like most people are sitting on the couch and it's like, oh, a show about sharks. Oh, I'm going to be an expert on sharks for the next week. Like as opposed to, hey, I want to know about this subject and I'm going to go out and look at different sources and figure out where those sources are getting their information. Now I'm going to decide where I stand on this issue once I've heard from multiple different angles as to what the facts were.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've probably all seen that in the business spaces where people don't do any research on being an entrepreneur, being a business owner, and then they attack you because you're not willing to like support their idea. And you're like, listen, brother, like if you've been hustling for 2 years developing this whole thing that you're trying to do, and then you need help on an avenue, well, we're veterans, we're brothers, we'll help you out. Like that's great, but you can't come out the gate with 1 week saying you want to do something and like make it happen for me. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And I don't think people understand like how much you probably put into what task and purpose is today. That's probably a decade of working and positioning yourself where you can understand the climate of that market and go, this is the idea I think may work, and it might fail.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some pinnacle
it'd be
turning
great.
points for you in task and purpose. Like, what was some of the first traffic points that you saw where you were like, holy cow, I didn't expect this to get this much attention? And then at what point did you go, this needs to be its own thing.
Right. So initially the focus was on employment type contract, right? Transition content, because that's what we were trying to serve to the community. And then we wrote this story. Brian Jones, our editor in chief, wrote this story that was like some listicle that about like 10 funniest things veterans say, or I can't remember exactly what the subject was, and it went viral. We had like 150,000, 250,000 views on it. And we realized that there was a real appetite for this content beyond the employment stuff. And so we just sort of experimented with that. And that was sort of the first time where we figured maybe there's something here beyond just supporting higher purpose. And then we hired a really great managing editor named Lauren Katzenberg, who's a civilian but spent 2 years in Afghanistan as a civilian contractor. And she is a fucking bulldog. And she came to us from War on the Rocks, had a news and media background. And, I think my opinion is you find great people, you find what they're passionate about, you make sure it fits into the business model in some way, and you let them run with it. And Brian and Lauren really built Task and Purpose to what it is today. And then we're fortunate that Pat just came aboard to sort of help us take it to the next level.
Well, Pat, and you have a friend, Monica, that's on the show today, right?
Monica.
Oh, I just love your voice that you always say. your comedic voice you did the prank call with.
Oh, Janice.
Oh, Janice.
Not Monica.
Oh, I forgot the name.
Yeah. No, that was a cruise scammer. I had him on the line for 7 minutes, and I actually invited him on the cruise with me, and he didn't want to go. He's like, I'm married. And I'm like, well, Lil, do you know? I got 2 tickets. I'm like, you taking both, child? He did not. So, because there was no cruise, turns out. But yeah, Jack just happened to be there. That was a moment of opportunity that we took.
Well, you guys, so yeah, let's go into the story of them getting you and Adam, because you guys scored Adam as well, and that was a big score too.
So, do you guys know Paul Zolja from
Yes,
Duffel Blog?
Paul. Yeah.
So Paul Zolja's broken my heart like 5 million times. So initially, Paul Zolja about 3-4 years ago was interning at Business Insider, and I was an avid reader of the Duffel Blog. Love the content he's creating. Tried to hire him, and he said, "Look, if when my internship ends, I'm going to come over and work with you guys." And I started reading Business Insider because he was there. Got introduced to Brian Jones because of that. His internship ended, and they gave him West Coast editor of Business Insider. So he got promoted there, went on to do great things, and he's phenomenal. And Paul, if you're listening, we're still here for you. Anytime
Where
you want
is
to come
he now?
work.
Because he left We Are the Mighty.
He went Business Insider, We Are the Mighty, back to Business Insider.
Okay, so he's back at Business Insider.
But he needs to come to Task and Purpose.
He does.
He needs to come into
I
the
agree
fold.
with that.
Yeah, he's a great fucking writer.
Yes.
He's wasting his time in the civilian world.
And I always enjoy sitting down with him.
Yeah, he's fucking funny. We need
That's
that
how
snark.
I feel about you, Pat. Don't let them ostracize you in that end
Pat.
table. You
Yeah,
know.
there's
No, but you know, like
They got the second best Pat though.
and that's
Pat
good enough
second
for me
best.
though.
Yeah,
I
Pat.
like that. Like I don't need the title.
Pat second best.
Pat's second best, dude.
No, Pat's like number 3. Like we're like only.
And this is Zach's
number
new
one in my
thing.
heart.
So like,
This is my new thing.
Zach does have a little bit of Nick Palmisano in him, where I'll come down and no.
I would like to think I have a little Zach Iskel and Nick Palmisano.
Oh, okay.
Let's just
So
keep
I'll
this
come,
straight.
I'll
There.
come
Power
down.
move.
See
See what I did
That's
there?
what I'm talking
See what I
about.
did there?
Yeah.
I'll literally just come down and I'll be like, "Hey, good morning" or something, and he'll look at me and be like, "What the fuck do you want?" Like, he's kidding, obviously, but it threw me off like the first 5 times.
I'm not fucking kidding.
See, there it
Yeah,
is.
that is a good
No, I'm
question.
kidding.
though. Why are
Yeah.
you
He's
here?
brought so much
Why are
light to
you
the
in front?
office.
We're in front of me
Yeah.
right now.
So then about a year ago, I tried hiring Paul Zolja again.
Yeah.
And he couldn't come aboard. He introduced me to Adam. Adam was doing the Maxim story
Maxim
on you
story
guys.
on Range 15 stuff, and he
And-
was awesome. And I loved working with him because
He's phenomenal.
He even let us proof it before it came out
Yeah.
to make sure he wasn't, misrepresenting the community incorrectly and things like that. And I gave him mad reverence for that, because a lot of people don't give a fuck. They want to sell the story, but he was like, "Hey, is this cool? Like, is this the heart of your guys' brand?" So thanks to Adam for that.
Yeah, and he's, I think there's an ethos in our community where you want to do right by people, right? There's a lot of reporters that they're after the story, and I think
The clicks.
the clicks
The clicks
and-
become more important.
Yeah, and so Adam came aboard shortly after that, and has done phenomenal work for us. I don't know if you guys saw the Standing Rock piece that he did. He went out with Marty Scoveland to Standing Rock, did that story, and I guess Adam got to know you right through Range 15.
Yeah. Jack introduced me to Adam. Jack
That's what
Mandeville.
it is.
Yeah, because we did the road trip up to Task and Purpose in early September, where we went up the East Coast and whatnot. So that's when I met Adam.
Pat, you used to work for Ranger Up.
I did. I was with Ranger Up for just over 2 years.
Right.
Nice.
And Ranger Up was obviously a phenomenal experience. I got to meet my first almost boyfriend, Matt, and then JT, and get to know other people.
Yeah.
Almost boyfriend.
Almost boyfriend.
I like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
There's
still time.
I went to the VA and got my blood work done, and turns out I was going down the wrong road, but that's okay. It's been a battle. So I know.
We're sending him back to Ranger Up.
So
It's not liberal enough for our audience.
but no, basically, I wanted to get back to New York. I'm from New York, not New York City, but my parents are 3 hours away and whatnot. My whole family. My dad's getting older, so I talked to Nick about it, and he completely understood. It was cool, and Zach happened to have a spot for me, so that was pretty much it.
We were looking to hire somebody to start doing a lot more video content for us, and
Oh wow, you lucked out with that one.
we really liked that. and I'll tell you, the other thing is Nick was really fucking cool about it. You know, I mean, he was incredibly supportive of Pat. You know, he was supportive of us bringing him on board. He knew that this was best for Pat. His family was in New York. He wanted to be close to home.
Nick took. I mean, initially I was worried he was going to take 30%. Of my starting salary,
did.
and now he's at 15. All right, never mind. He's still taking 30%.
Right.
So which I
That's
took
good.
that was really nice of him. That was
Yeah.
And that is a good leader.
Yeah.
Right there.
Exactly.
You know
Yeah,
what?
right. Only
That's called
30%.
the Afghan way.
Had he been
It's called the Afghan way.
had he been civilian corporate, he probably would have taken 70.
Well,
yeah.
and what I mean is by you guys lucked out is like we know what it's like. I mean, I don't think there is anybody else out there right now that we would trust with the keys to our content department. Like,
Yeah.
Well,
like-
we've had that same issue. You know, guys will come in and not the same issue in the sense of like just recruiting quality people to develop content, and we still have like kind of a tight grip on the keys. We don't allow hardly anybody to do anything for us unless they've worked for us for quite a while.
Well, I think it's
Yeah.
hard too because like Art 15, Matt Best, BlackRifle Coffee, Ranger Up, it's a very unique learning. It's a very unique education in terms of sketch video, trying to convert video and whatnot. Everybody else who tries to mimic it, they fail, and you see it. So not a lot of people learn what we learn in the space that we're in.
Well, also too is I rarely see anybody that wants to take the time to learn the software and the hardware of the business. And what they don't realize is every single one of us, Evan knows how to edit in Premiere. He knows how to mix and mix down and kick out a video with good audio.
Yeah.
And he knows how to grab a camera. Matt knows how to do this by himself. I know how to do this by myself. So it's like we're cutting that person out when you have that concept in your head. Like you're already breaking down the technical aspect of what you're going to need to get that done.
Yeah.
As opposed to you trying to sell your idea to somebody that you're paying to make your idea reality. We're already 5 steps ahead of that game.
Well, we've been very fortunate with that. And I think a testament to why like people have a hard time maybe replicating certain entertainment things that we do is because at the fucking base level we do literally everything ourselves. Like we don't hire an editor. No, I want to sit there for 6 hours and get my brain drained to make sure that there's not one frame that's messed up in there, because that polish on the videos, people don't care. They're like, oh well, it's funny, we have the guns and this, but you're like, there's such a writing process that goes into it, and then the development when it's done, I hand it to JT, he'll pick out his things. Like we're super specific. I mean, I've thrown away plenty pieces of content because I'm like, it just doesn't work.
Yeah,
as funny as you got it,
and
what
we
didn't
do.
work?
We just axe it. Like, I don't like it.
Or it happens while you're shooting.
Yeah.
You're going through it, and you're both just looking at
The
each other. And
idea
you're like,
changes completely.
We have to stop now.
A perfect example of that is the doctor video with these two. That video that you saw with them interviewing the girl as
Doctors diagnose the liberal.
Doctors diagnose the liberal. That's
fun.
Like that was not the idea at all. Like, it was something else. I don't even remember why we got the doctor's
It was
outfit.
something about me prescribing her dick.
Yeah.
I think you
And
still
then
did
Evan
though.
came up with the idea of offending them with the
signs.
and it just kind of meshed together.
So do you guys, kind of shifting back over to
I thought this was great
purpose,
talking about the doctor's office. We keep going with that.
Wait,
Sorry.
do you guys when you guys are developing content now? So are you using kind of a traditional editing process as far as like a news editing
Yeah,
process?
I mean, we
what,
try.
what
and
does that
at-
look like?
Yeah, so it varies from day to day, and I think we're trying to figure out what the next iteration of Task and Purpose is right now because we
Okay.
want to go broader. And so, some of it is looking at what's the stories of the day, what are the things that people are talking about, what are the stories that people should be talking about that we should provide attention to. Some of it is based on partnerships, right, and doing some collaborations around content. So it varies. We're looking at sort of expanding to new verticals. We're doing a lot of opinion. We have about 300 contributing writers.
Wow.
Who vary from, you've got President Obama wrote for us in August. We've had John McCain write for us a number of times. In addition to a lot of just young veterans who.
How do you reach out to President Obama and ask
That's
him, like,
really
hey,
cool.
dude, do you want to
That
write
is-
this? Do you want to
that
write
is
this?
seriously- That is
Hey,
an
bro.
accomplishment.
Hey, Broseph.
Yeah, exactly.
got a job for you.
Use Broseph. That's rule number one when addressing the President of the United States. So our editor-in-chief, Brian, had a relationship with somebody who was handling veteran stuff for the White House
Right.
and had been pitching him on this, and then there was an opportunity, and they reached out to us. And
Wow.
same thing with John McCain's office. I think, and we've sort of been recognized by a lot of senior leaders that if they want to reach this community, we're a safe space to do that.
Right. And so when you're going through your iterations as far as like the story of 300 contributing writers, do you kick out like an email with things that you want to see maybe in the next quarter and then guys push back
Yeah,
stuff?
so
or?
we look at a number of things. So we have 5 full-time staff writers who will be covering a lot of news, writing feature stories. On the contributor side, what we'll often do is source things around a specific holiday, specific event. We have a Facebook group that those contributors can pitch ideas in, and that we can pitch ideas to that community to see whether or not they resonate. And then in addition to that, we know which contributors are sort of good for certain things. So if we're writing about aviation safety in the Marine Corps, we've got a great writer named Carl Forsling, who was a Osprey pilot. So you sort of tap into that network to find who's the right person to tell those stories as well.
And how long did it take you to build that network? I mean, because I guess, higher purpose, and then did you take a lot of your team from them and then move over to what you're doing now?
Yeah, so we're about 27, 28 people now.
Okay.
And it's pretty much split down the middle. The dev team, our engineers sort of split their time between both platforms. The writers are mainly focused on Task and Purpose now, though there is higher purpose content they create. Right. And then most of our sales right now is exclusively focused on higher purpose, although we've got one sales guy now on Task and Purpose. So there's some carryover,
right,
or some bleeding over between the two properties.
And what do you sell specifically on higher purpose? What are you guys selling?
Yeah, so we sell, we provide clients a number of different things. So first, most importantly, we help them brand and market themselves to the military.
Right.
So we help them create branded content campaigns to reach this audience. We do sourcing campaigns for them. We do some consulting work where we help them build a military recruiting or hiring program. We do social media outreach for them. So we really help them everything from design their military recruiting campaign to how they are actually going to execute and provide them the tools to do that and the data to be able to do that, to see, these are the roles in their company that are the best fit for vets for them to target that they'll be most successful with. So if you have a company like GE, they've got tens of thousands of jobs,
right,
but there might be 5 roles that are a good fit for this community.
And so are you matching the previous military background with profession for the company specifically?
Sometimes. That works with some roles. Right. I think, it's really interesting listening to you guys talk about the work that goes into creating content and to what, how you guys have become experts at creating video, at creating, a podcast, right? And that you guys know how to do everything. I think it's a really good metaphor for transition that a lot of vets get out and they're like, I was in the fucking infantry, I can do anything. It's like, actually, no, you can't, right? Like if you were in the infantry and you wanted to become a fighter pilot, you'd go to fucking flight school, right? So if you want to get out of the military and go take a job as a maintenance tech or an account manager or a salesperson or an engineer, like you've got to learn that trade. You've got to put the work into it as if you were transitioning, doing an MOS transition, right? You've got to learn that new skill. So we provide the content for veterans to do that as well, in addition to identifying the best roles in a company for that population.
Interesting. So
super awesome.
So you see, you've got to have like this laundry list of things that you see, the mistakes that veterans are making as they're trying to transition out and move into the civilian world. Rattle some off for me, man. Like that's value add for guys listening to this.
So I was on this panel a couple weeks ago at the Travis Manion Foundation, which is a great foundation named after a young Marine officer who was killed in Iraq. His dad was a Marine colonel. His sister, Ryan Manion, runs the foundation. And they had me on a panel, and there's a young Marine sergeant who had just gotten out. She was moved from Camp Lejeune to Emerald Isle, where she was working as a dishwasher. And she got promoted to be general manager, but she was really upset that she couldn't find another job. And, afterwards I told her, part of the problem is she's staying in Emerald Isle, North Carolina. Right? Like, if she moved to Brooklyn, New York, or, you name the city, I could find her 20 jobs. Right. But I think the biggest issue a lot of vets make is geographic location. They're moving back to places that just don't have jobs for them.
That's so interesting because you look at...
It's fucking cool.
Because you look at, like, who's enlisting in the military. Right. If you look at those, if you just did an overlay, you said it's literally the economically depressed areas of the United States, typically, in rural areas. So rural, economically depressed areas of the United States, if we did a fucking overlay, it would be urban and rural, economically depressed. Or what is it? It's irrelevant. But now they're moving back to those places and expecting that, their 4 to 6 or 10 or 12 years is going to get them a job where jobs don't exist. Yeah. That's fucking interesting, man.
Yeah.
Like, super interesting.
And 2, don't waste your education benefits.
Right.
You got a lot of vets that will use the GI Bill just to collect, the BAH. Don't fucking do that. That is really, really valuable. And there are ways that, we had a guy that used to work for us who's now at Deutsche Bank named Josh Ray, who got out of the Navy, went to community college in LA, transferred to Yale University, graduated from Yale, went to go work for General McChrystal. Like, he did it right? And there's no reason that most folks with a GI Bill can't go to an Ivy League school or a top state school.
It's such an interesting topic you say that, because you see so many veterans that are just cruising when they get out of the military. They maybe postpone for about 6 months, live off what they're making, get into online college. And this is coming from a guy that has an online bachelor's, and just coast because they can live off that BAH, and then they sit there. And at the end of that 3 to 4 year stint, they leave with literally no skills other than some maybe writing and stuff like that. But ultimately no skills or degree that's going to benefit them. It's not a trade degree. It's not something like a high degree in, like, from Yale in business or whatever, where we actually can land you a paying job. Yeah. Because if I try to find a fucking job with my degree, I would be, low 30s.
I would say another thing too that I see a pattern of is a lot of guys kind of get out and become introverts, like where they were outgoing in their unit and they liked being around the guys and everything like that. They get out and then it's, oh, fuck civilians, or oh, fuck you guys, I'm way different, yada, yada, yada. No. You need to make friends. Yeah. You need to make friends
you need to
everywhere.
Network. You need to network.
You need to just know people. Like, and that's,
I think that's also like a lot of insecurity too. They try to project it that they don't like the main culture of the civilian population, but I do think it's insecurity, because you get out and you see your buddies that you went to high school with, and they might already be at a decently moderate, they're in a successful place, and you feel like you're starting over almost.
Right.
And nobody understands what you did. You feel like maybe you're not taken seriously enough, when you were an E3 and you were handling this big equipment, and then you're E4 and you had people under you, and you get out and you can't even understand the language that's being spoken to you. Right. I think, and I agree with you, they need to insert themselves and get involved in order to start to learn again.
But on that topic too, I truly believe that the skill sets and leadership things that you learn just by being in the military make you so much more of someone that can be far successful in any job ever. Because like you said, you get out and you're like, I should be better. The other 23-year-olds, they got their degrees in that. But if you do your due diligence and like focus, the skills that you learn in the military, like, they directly correlate to success in business, because of being a team leader, a squad leader, whatever you are. That's day-to-day operations at any business that people don't have. They're trying to learn on the fly, but you already learned those skills.
Yeah.
Well, I think that it's important too for guys to understand, this is a huge point that you just made, which is guys are getting out of their previous job and they're saying, okay, I've got all these skills. I've got them all packed up in my rucksack, and I'm going to be able to just jump straight into this, even though there's not a translation. Like, they haven't taken the time. I remember the first business plan that we wrote was off the 5-paragraph op order, but I still had to go to the SBA's website and read through each one of the business planning cycles in order to match them up with, like, the 5-paragraph operations order for the Army and the 1-paragraph operations order for the Marine Corps. There's a joke. It's a Marine Corps joke. Come on.
I got that. I was like, oh.
But no, I still had to take the time.
I'm still
Fuck, man.
catching up. I'm still trying to digest that joke. I'm a little slow.
It took me fucking 3 days of work of going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, where it actually started to make sense for me because situation, for instance, if we just took that first line and you say, okay, what's the enemy situation? Okay, well, we're kind of doing market analysis, right?
Yep.
So when you're matching these things up and you're looking into logistics, your mission statement, fuck, that's huge.
Yeah.
You know, and these things are really translatable into business, but you do have to take the time, and you can't just say, I'm going to read this once and get it. Fuck, man. I had to read this, I don't know how many times. I had to look up words. Like, I didn't know what pro forma meant. I was like, what the fuck? Well, I don't know what that means. Are you kidding me? Like, I don't, you know, and if you don't know anything, it's like, about that specific subject, you can't be afraid to search Google, you know, like search Google to get you on Google first, then search what you're looking for. And finding that, whether you're looking for that next step in education, or you're trying to start a business, or maybe you're starting an education and a business at the same thing or at the same time, you have to be humble in the sense of like, man, the Marine Corps or the Army, it taught me a lot of things, but it didn't give me 6 months of translation and how to use these skills and how they're going to directly transfer over into here. And it takes a lot of work. When I say is like time in the saddle, that says like, oh shit, this is perfect. You know, my time is, you know, we got a bunch of SF guys in the office. One is a former 18 Bravo, which is a weapons sergeant, but he was also a logistics specialist. So he was doing a ton of logs. I'm like, I put him in the logs department. He's like, dude, I don't know shit about this interface. I'm like, yeah, but you're going to learn because you're a super smart guy. And I know that you're going to knock out like 22-hour days and do the work that it's going to take. And I think that's a very important piece to this transitioning veteran, that don't expect that this stuff is going to be easy, man.
It's gonna be super hard work.
Yeah. It's you still have to roll up your sleeves, and it's just not going to be like.
And I love that you just said that humility, right? Like we all of us have been through schools in the military, right? And you have that guy that shows up that's a know-it-all, and you got the guy that's willing to ask 1,000 questions, who usually graduates on top, right? It's a guy that comes who doesn't assume he knows anything, right? He's the one that's not afraid to ask.
It was, I mean, I was an instructor for my field for 4 years, and I still to this day remember like the greatest thing I've ever heard a student say while they were just getting the shit smoke out of them. And I said, what, God, how did I put it? I asked him like, what do you want to be when you get out of here, when you get out of school? And he goes, whatever you shape me into, Sergeant. And I went, I'm not arguing with that one.
Well, and I think that's a good thing to understand if you're getting out as a veteran. Like, you might not want, when there's like, well, I need to get a job, so I should use my BAH right now. Well, no, there's a lot of other skills you can learn. Like, the internet is a wonderful place. Like, I put myself through probably 250 hours of editing on YouTube and all these free things, just because I needed to learn the skill. I couldn't get billed from a tech company. I couldn't ask JT because he was so swamped. So I was like, I need to learn these skills. And you can search for the information, and it's out there. Someone's not gone down that path before.
So lesson is, look, if you go to an online school, you can become Matt Best. If you go to Yale, you can go work as an investment banker. You know, I mean, it's, you know, I would rather be Matt Best.
Just be a douchebag and have tits out with girls for clickbait. That's all I did.
YouTube University.
Hot dogs.
But it is really impressive what you guys have done. No, it really is. And, you know, I think you guys probably make it look easy. And I think all of us know that it is not easy what you guys do.
Well, we're big fans of your guys' work, too.
Well, thank you.
Shit, I check it almost every day.
You know, that was actually something I forgot to add about the video and why it's hard to trust someone with it. I think from the outside looking in, they think it's going to be super fun because they see it happening and they think you're drunk the whole time. They think that you're just
It's not too
banging girls and dudes and having a grand old time. And then they show up and there's a scripting process. There's an editing process. Then you have to shoot, and that takes a long time, and it sucks sometimes. And then you have to edit that. And then sometimes you have to edit again, reshoot. And it's not fun anymore.
Yeah, and there's a lot of work that goes in there, and we'll capstone this right now, but like the rap battle, for instance, and so people have some maybe insight to it. Literally, there's 2 people working on that project. From the writing, from the directing, it's not this grandioso team. You know, literally 2 people are doing all of that, and then some help from other people. But it's not like, oh yeah, well the director will do this, the writers will do this. No, you're hustling for probably
Everybody
3 weeks.
knows 10 jobs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we greatly appreciate you guys coming out, man.
Yeah, well, thanks for having us. It's been awesome being
I know you
here.
got to catch a
guys are
flight.
great.
That's why.
Oh shit, that's right.
No, he's still good. He's still good.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
He's still
Well,
good.
I really do want to ask one more question
Yeah.
before you take off, man. You know, you're talking about restructuring and looking at your mission
Yeah.
statement. You know, what do you see Task and Purpose doing in the next 12 months differently that you didn't do the last 12 months?
Yeah, so I think we're rethinking how we display the content, right? So we're looking at changing especially our mobile site, making it much more of a feed, right? So it mimics Facebook, it mimics Twitter, having our writers write more snackable content, and then also working on bigger feature stories that are sort of tent poles for the week.
Wow.
And so we're really starting to really think about how do we combine, not just how we write our content, but how that's actually integrated into the core product where people are reading it, right? Onto their mobile interface or onto their computer screen, their desktop, and then creating a community around that through video content that informs people, lifts our brand, makes people more aware of it, but turns it into your daily news site. Like, this is the place you come to. It becomes part of your behavior. That's what we want. We want 5, 10, 15 million people coming to our site every single day to get their news, to find out what's going on in our community, and bigger than our community, right? We want to reach a bigger audience.
Well, that sounds amazing.
Yeah,
that's
it
awesome.
sounds. And just listening to my statement, I'm kind of blown away. Actually, I like the vision. I think it's clearly articulated. I could see how somebody can not only move towards that, but I can see how you can get there. I think it's incredible the amount of energy that in veteran energy specifically, and kind of providing a platform for the voice of the irreverent, I guess, and I guess the underutilized. And then when I say the underutilized articulation of the veteran voice, we've earned our place at the table to speak.
We really have, yeah.
And I think this is it's fucking cool, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much.
Thank you. And where can everybody find you guys online?
Taskandpurpose.com.
You can also follow us on Vine and check out our MySpace and add us there.
Yeah, sweet.
Yeah, Pat has launched our MySpace page.
Well,
It's
badass.
Let's go to the
crutch.
Instagrams. What about Instagram?
Task and
Instagram.
Purpose.
Task and
yeah,
Purpose.
everything is Task and
What's
Purpose
yours,
across the board.
Pat?
I'm Patrick T. Baker.
Patrick T. Baker. And Zach?
And I'm Zach Iskol, but my wife has me lock down the account because it's all pictures of our kids. You know,
Okay.
see it. It's not as sexy as what you guys are doing.
All right. Well, guys, thank you.
Thank you so much.
For Blackhearted, we are out.
Thanks, guys.
Semper Fi. Got it in there.
Black Rifle Coffee Company, along with Arson Wave, would like to thank you for tuning in to Blackhearted. Have a great fucking day.